It's hard to put into words exactly what living under constant financial pressure feels like a low-grade panic that never quite leaves your chest, no matter how many times you tell yourself you'll be okay. I'm 27 now, and for as long as I can remember, it's been this slow, grinding battle just to keep my head above water. Every paycheck feels like it's supposed to be a lifeline, but more often than not, it's barely enough to patch the holes in a sinking ship. I grew up thinking I'd have the kind of life where money was a tool, not a trap. My parents worked hard but never really talked about finances much, and honestly, I didn't really get the weight of it until I had to start managing my own bills. It's like suddenly the world handed me this giant, invisible burden, and no one really showed me how to carry it. The rent in my city is insane, skyrocketing every year, and every time it goes up, it feels like the ground shifts beneath my feet. I watch my bank balance shrink in real time, and it's terrifying. The cost of living isn't just rent. Groceries, gas, utilities, even the little things like a haircut or a night out with friends, they all add up faster than my paycheck can stretch. I've stopped going to restaurants entirely, and birthdays or holidays used to mean presents and gatherings, but now I just try to find ways to make things feel special without spending. Sometimes I catch myself scrolling through social media, watching people post pictures of trips, new gadgets, or dinners out, and I have this bitter little thought, why can't that be me? Work is another story. I'm in a job that pays the bills but doesn't leave much room for growth. I'm lucky to have it, I know that, especially when so many people are struggling to find employment. But the reality is, I work 40+ hours a week, sometimes more, and the stress is exhausting. I constantly worry about whether I should ask for a raise, but every time I think about it, I freeze. What if they say no? What if they decide I'm not worth it? The fear of losing even this stability makes me swallow my pride and keep going, even when I'm burned out. The emotional toll is heavy. Some nights, after all the bills are paid and there's barely anything left, I lie awake thinking about all the dreams I had before money became this constant weight. I wanted to travel, to see the world beyond my city's limits. I wanted to go back to school and study something I'm passionate about, maybe art or writing, but those dreams feel like luxuries now. I've had to push them further and further away, promising myself I'll get to them someday, when things get better. But the thing is, I'm not sure when or if that day will come. There's a strange kind of shame that comes with this. It's not just the practical stress, it's feeling like I'm failing somehow, like I'm not managing my life well enough. I try to remind myself that it's not personal, that the system itself is set up so expenses keep rising but wages barely budge. But when you're the one waking up every day wondering if you'll have enough money to cover groceries or if you should skip that doctor's appointment to save a few bucks, it feels deeply personal. I catch myself apologizing to friends when I can't afford to meet up or declining invitations because I know it means spending money I don't really have. It isolates me. Coping isn't easy, but I found little ways to survive. I've started cooking at home almost exclusively, meal prepping to save money and time. I listened to podcasts and read articles about budgeting and investing, trying to learn how to make the system work for me rather than against me. Sometimes I treat myself to small things, like a coffee or a book, as a reminder that I'm still here, still fighting. I talk openly with a few close friends about how hard it is, and that helps. It's a relief to not carry this burden alone. Yet even with all the stress and uncertainty, I hold on to hope. It's a quiet hope, not loud or flashy, but persistent. I dream of a time when I can breathe easier, when I can take a vacation without calculating every expense in my head. I dream of a career that pays well and feels meaningful. I dream of owning a little apartment of my own, not a cramped rental where I'm just passing through. And I dream of being able to give back, to my family, to my community, to myself. The economic environment feels like a trap sometimes, like I'm running a race where the finish line keeps moving further away. But I remind myself that this story isn't finished yet. I'm learning to live in this reality while still imagining something better. It's hard, it's exhausting, and it often feels unfair, but I'm still here, still trying, still hoping. Maybe that's enough for now. If someone reading this knows what I'm talking about, you're not alone. And maybe, just maybe, we can find a way through this together. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. Some days, it feels like I'm sinking in quicksand. The more I struggle, the deeper I get pulled under. I'm 27, and for as long as I can remember, money has never been enough. Not because I'm careless or spendthrift, but because the world I live in seems designed to keep me on this relentless treadmill, running just to stay in place. I graduated college 4 years ago, hopeful and eager, clutching my degree like it was a golden ticket. The reality hit hard. My first job paid decent for an entry-level position, but barely enough to cover rent and bills. I moved into a tiny apartment shared with 2 roommates, thinking it would help ease the burden. It did, but only marginally. Every month, the bills arrive like clockwork: rent, utilities, groceries, student loans, phone, internet, and I watch the numbers pile up faster than my paycheck can replenish my bank account. The cost of living feels like a monster that grows overnight. Rent goes up, groceries get more expensive, gas prices spike, and suddenly, the paycheck that looked okay last month is stretched paper thin this month. I hear friends talk about buying homes, saving for vacations, or investing for retirement, and I wonder if I'm speaking a different language. Because my reality is about choosing between eating well or paying the electric bill, or deciding if I can afford a doctor's visit without falling behind on rent. The worst part is the trap. It's invisible but suffocating. I'm caught in a system where expenses inflate faster than wages ever will. I try to negotiate raises, but the companies I work for remind me that the market is tight, that budgets are frozen, or that I should be grateful to have a job. Freelance gigs help, but they're irregular and unpredictable. So, I'm always balancing precariously on the edge of financial ruin, one unexpected expense away from crisis. Some days, I can't sleep. I lie awake, running the numbers in my head, trying to map out a budget for the next month, the next week, the next day. The stress gnaws at me. It's hard to explain to people who haven't lived it, the constant anxiety that there won't be enough, that you'll have to make impossible choices, that the future you dreamed of is slipping further and further away. It's exhausting and lonely. I've learned to smile through it, to keep my worries to myself because no one wants to hear about financial struggles on repeat. But beneath the surface, the weight presses down. Sometimes, I get overwhelmed by a wave of hopelessness. I think about the things I wanted: to travel, to live independently without roommates, to save for a home, to maybe even start a family one day. Those dreams feel like distant stars, beautiful, but out of reach. I've had to postpone buying a car, or upgrading my laptop, or even going to the dentist. Vacations? A luxury I can't justify. Instead, I spend weekends scouring thrift stores, cooking simple meals at home, and skipping nights out to save a few bucks. Still, I try to cope. I find small joys in things that cost nothing: a walk in the park, a book from the library, a phone call with a friend. I cling to hope that the economy will improve, that wages will catch up, that I'll land a better paying job, that inflation will slow. I try to remind myself that this season won't last forever, though some days, that feels like a lie I tell to survive. Financial pressure isn't just about money, it's about dignity and security and peace of mind. It's about feeling like you're constantly falling behind, no matter how hard you work. It's about seeing a future that's clouded by uncertainty and fear. I'm trying to stay grounded, to take it one day at a time, to hold on to the belief that my worth isn't measured by my bank account. In these quiet moments of reflection, I recognize my own resilience. Despite the stress and setbacks, I'm still here, still pushing forward. I'm learning to be kinder to myself, to accept that some things are beyond my control, and to find strength in small victories. And maybe, someday, the system won't feel like a trap. Maybe then, I'll be able to breathe again, to dream again, to live fully instead of just surviving. Until that day, I carry this burden quietly, hoping that my story, and those of so many others, are heard. Because financial pressure isn't a personal failure, it's a systemic crisis that shapes how we live, love, and hope. And that truth needs to be spoken out loud. I never thought I'd feel this way, like I'm caught in a trap, spinning my wheels but going nowhere. When I finished college, I was hopeful. I had a degree, a decent job lined up, and dreams, big dreams. I wanted to travel, to move out of my small town, maybe start a family one day. But now, 5 years in, those dreams seem further away than ever. The numbers just don't add up anymore. Every paycheck I get feels like it's stretched thinner than the last. My salary has barely budged, but everything else keeps rising: rent, groceries, utilities, gas. I live in a city where the cost of living is climbing faster than my income, and it feels like I'm drowning in expenses that never stop growing. I watch the news about inflation and housing prices, but it's more than headlines, it's the reality that shapes every decision I make. I have a modest apartment with 2 roommates, which helps keep costs down. Even so, my share of rent takes nearly half my paycheck. Utilities have jumped so much recently that I find myself switching off lights in rooms I'm not even in, reluctant to use the heater in winter or air conditioning in summer. The electric bill still arrives with a number that makes my heart race. Food has become a strategic operation. I clip coupons, shop sales, buy in bulk, and meal prep every weekend to avoid eating out. I used to love cooking as a way to unwind, but now it feels like a necessity rather than joy. I've cut back on fresh produce and meat, substituting cheaper carbs to fill the void. Sometimes, I skip meals without even realizing it because I'm distracted or overwhelmed. Transportation is another constant headache. My car is old and unpredictable. Every month, I wonder if the repairs I put off will catch up with me. I use public transit when I can, but it's unreliable and slow. The stress of budgeting for gas, insurance, and maintenance adds to the weight on my shoulders. Sometimes, I cancel plans with friends just because I can't afford the bus fare. Everyday choices come with a cost. When my phone started glitching, I agonized over whether to repair it or buy a new one. I finally settled on a cheap replacement, but the quality is poor and the battery drains quickly. I'm always conscious about saving money, but I'm exhausted by the constant calculations. What can I afford this month? What can I skip? Can I afford a night out? Can I say yes to a birthday dinner? This constant tension leaks into everything. Anxiety wakes me up at 3 a.m., heart racing as I think about bills and deadlines. Sometimes I feel overwhelmed to the point of paralysis, like no matter what I do, I'm falling behind. It's hard not to internalize that stress as failure. I compare myself to friends who seem to be moving ahead, buying homes, traveling, investing in their futures. I want to celebrate their successes, but it also hurts, reminding me of what I can't do. My social life has shrunk because I can't keep up. Invitations feel like traps. I don't want to say no, but I also can't say yes. I worry about being judged or seen as cheap. It's lonely. Sometimes I catch myself withdrawing, avoiding conversations about money or my struggles. The shame and embarrassment make it hard to ask for help. But there are days when I do reach out, talking to close friends or a counselor about the weight of it all. Those moments of vulnerability remind me I'm not alone. I cope by focusing on small victories. I keep a journal where I track expenses and celebrate when I save even a little. I practice mindfulness to manage the anxiety, take walks in the park to clear my head, and remind myself that my value isn't tied to my bank balance. I volunteer occasionally, which gives me purpose and perspective. These things don't solve the financial pressure, but they help me hold on to hope. And about dreams, so many have been postponed. I wanted to go back to school, but tuition feels impossible. I dreamed of traveling alone, seeing the world, but airfare is out of reach. Starting a family seems like a distant fantasy, one I'm scared to even think about. I've accepted that my timeline looks different. Sometimes that acceptance feels like defeat, but sometimes it's survival. Despite everything, I still hold on to hope. I believe the system can change, that wages will rise, that housing will become affordable, that people like me won't be left behind. I'm trying to be patient with myself and my journey. The trap feels tight, but I'm looking for cracks, opportunities to climb out, step by step. I want to say this aloud: I am more than my financial struggles. I am trying my best in a system that isn't designed for me to win. And though it's hard, I'm still here, still fighting, still dreaming, still hoping. This is my story, raw and honest, because maybe, in sharing it, I can find a little freedom. I never imagined money would feel like this, like a tide that never stops rising, dragging me further out to sea, no matter how hard I swim. Each month, I sit down with my bank app, my heart pounding, scrolling through the numbers. And every time, it's the same brutal truth: expenses growing faster than what I bring in, and no end in sight. I'm 27, working a decent job, or at least it used to feel decent. When I graduated, I thought, finally. I'm free, I got a role in marketing, a decent salary for someone my age, and enough to cover rent, food, and maybe some weekends out. But then the bills started to creep up. Rent went up, like, a lot. Utilities, groceries, transportation, phone bills, and insurance, they all went up, too. But my paycheck? It stayed stubbornly flat for years, maybe nudging up just a little. The gap between what I earn and what I owe widened, and I began feeling it in every decision I made. Some days, I don't even realize how much the pressure is squeezing me until I try to breathe. Like yesterday, for example, I had to decide whether to buy medicine I really needed or buy groceries for the week. I chose groceries because I was starving, but my head was spinning with guilt and worry all day. How did I get here? How is it that something as basic as health feels like a luxury? It's like I'm trapped in a system designed to move faster than I can run. Inflation runs ahead, prices rise, and the news talks about economic growth and recovery. But what recovery? I feel stuck in place. I can't even save a few bucks for emergencies. I used to dream about traveling, getting my own apartment, maybe going back to school for a master's degree. Now those dreams feel like a distant fantasy, one I've had to shelve indefinitely, waiting for a better time that never comes. Every day, I wrestle with choices that wear on my soul. Do I skip the social event and stay home to save money, even if it makes me feel lonely? Do I take the cheaper, less healthy food option, knowing my body won't thank me later? Should I work overtime, risking burnout, just to patch a hole in my budget? And all those little sacrifices add up, eroding my confidence, my joy, my sense of self. I'm exhausted, but I try to cope. Sometimes, I distract myself with small pleasures, listening to music, watching a show, chatting with friends online. Those moments help me forget, if only briefly. Other times, I try to get organized, budgeting obsessively, tracking every dollar, hoping to find a secret path out of this maze. But the numbers never lie, no matter what I do, it's a losing battle. There's also a kind of loneliness to this financial pressure. People around me seem to have their lives together, owning homes, dating without money worries, planning trips, even starting families. I don't blame anyone, it's just a constant reminder of how different my reality feels. Sometimes I feel ashamed to admit how tight things are, worried I'll be judged or seen as irresponsible. But the truth is, this isn't about poor choices, it's about a system that's hard to win in. At night, when the world quiets down and I'm alone with my thoughts, I think about the future. I want to believe things will get better, that one day I'll have enough space to breathe, to dream again, to build a life without this constant pressure weighing on me. Maybe I'll find a new job, or the economy will shift. Maybe I'll finally save enough for that trip I've been dreaming of, or to start that master's degree. But right now, it's hard not to feel like I'm just surviving, waiting for a break that keeps getting pushed further away. I hold on to hope because it's all I have left sometimes. I remind myself that this moment doesn't define me, even if it feels like it's swallowing me whole. This story isn't unique, I know. There are so many others out there caught in the same tide, trying to keep their heads above water. And maybe by speaking it out loud, by naming this struggle, I can start to feel a little less alone in it. Because beneath the numbers and the bills, there's a person here, someone who wants more than just to survive. Someone who still dreams. I never thought I'd end up feeling this way, like I'm stuck in a loop where no matter how hard I try, the walls keep closing in. Growing up, I imagined my 20s would be about freedom, about finally living a little, not just surviving. But here I am, 24 years old, constantly calculating every expense, every penny spent, trying to stretch a paycheck that feels like it's shrinking faster than the cost of everything I need. The economic news is always the same: prices rising, wages stagnant, and the future uncertain. It's like watching a storm roll in, you know is going to hit hard, but you're powerless to stop it. Every day I wake up with this knot in my stomach because I know I'll have to decide what gets priority: rent, groceries, bills, or maybe just one small thing to keep myself sane. I feel like I'm in a race where the finish line keeps moving farther away, and I'm running out of breath. My job pays the bills but barely leaves anything extra. The rent takes nearly half my paycheck, and utilities keep creeping up every season. Then there's the car, which I need to get to work, but repairs are always looming. It's a constant balancing act: skip the doctor's appointment, eat cheaper food, avoid social outings, delay replacing worn-out shoes. I've become an expert at making do. But making do is exhausting. It feels like every day is a little battle where I lose a bit more of myself. Some mornings I sit with my coffee and stare at my bank account, willing it to be different, willing it to have a few more zeros. But it never does. I try not to let myself think about the future too much because it feels like a cruel joke. I had dreams once, big ones. Traveling, going back to school for something I actually love, maybe starting my own little business. I even thought about moving to a city where opportunities felt more real. But those dreams seem to be on hold, indefinitely postponed, like some vague promise that maybe someday, if things ever get better. It's not just the numbers that weigh on me, it's the emotional toll. There's this gnawing anxiety that wakes me up at night, that makes my chest tighten when I open my mail or hear a random noise in the apartment. The constant fear of unexpected expenses feels like a shadow I can't shake. And then there's the loneliness. Friends invite me out, but I have to say no more often than I want because I just can't afford it. It feels like I'm disappearing from the life I want to live, even from the people I care about. I cope in small ways, sometimes a late-night walk, just to clear my head, sometimes writing down everything I'm grateful for, even if it feels like a small list. I've learned to find tiny moments of joy in simple things: a song that hits just right, a text from a friend that reminds me I'm not alone, a sunrise that feels like a fresh start. But these moments don't erase the bigger picture, they just help me breathe a little deeper when everything feels suffocating. Sometimes I ask myself what it would take to break free. Is it a better job? Moving to a cheaper place? Saving money? But every plan seems to have a catch. Moving means upfront costs I don't have, a better job requires qualifications I can't afford to pursue right now. Saving feels impossible when every paycheck barely covers essentials. I feel trapped in a system that's designed to keep me just barely afloat, where the cost of living climbs faster than I can climb with it. I hate feeling hopeless because I know I'm capable of more. I want to believe there's a way out, that this isn't my permanent reality. Maybe someday the economy will shift, maybe wages will rise, maybe I'll find a chance to chase those old dreams again. Until then, I'm holding on to those hopes, fragile as they are. And I keep going, one day at a time, even when the weight of it all feels like it might crush me. I guess this is my truth, the messy, hard, exhausting truth of what it means to live under financial pressure in a world that feels like it's moving on without me. But I'm still here. Still fighting. Still hoping. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough for now. Sometimes I feel like I'm sinking, slowly but surely. It's not dramatic or sudden, it's more like a weight that's been steadily growing on my chest for years now. I'm 27, living paycheck to paycheck, and trying to make sense of a world that seems designed to keep me just barely afloat, never moving forward. It's exhausting, and honestly, it's lonely. When I graduated college, I had hope. I thought if I worked hard, kept my head down, I'd be able to build a life that felt stable, maybe even comfortable someday. But the economy didn't wait for me to catch up. Rent keeps climbing, prices at the grocery store are higher every week, and my income? It barely budges. I watch the news about inflation, housing crises, and wage stagnation, but it doesn't hit home until I sit with my own bills. That's when I realize I'm trapped in a system where expenses outpace income, and there's no easy escape. My mornings start with anxiety. I check my bank account on my phone before even getting out of bed. The number stares back at me like a judgment. It reminds me of all the unpaid bills, the looming credit card minimums, and the overdue payments I've been postponing. Sometimes I skip breakfast because I want to save money, other times I eat but feel guilty for spending on food that isn't cheap enough. I've become an expert at cutting corners, buying bulk rice and beans, hunting for discounts, using public transit instead of the car. But even the smallest expense feels like a decision loaded with pressure. Should I get that coffee or save the $dollar for? Should I replace my worn-out shoes now, or wait until they literally fall apart? Every choice is a negotiation with fear. Work itself is draining. I have a decent job in an office, but the pay doesn't reflect the cost of living around me. I watch my coworkers talk about buying new cars or planning vacations, and sometimes I feel like I'm living in a different world. My rent alone eats up nearly half my paycheck, and utilities keep climbing no matter how frugally I try to live. There are months when I put off filling the car's gas tank because I'm too scared of what the rest of the month might bring. When the car breaks down, I'm hit with a wave of panic, not just because of the money, but because I know how much harder life gets without it. Emotionally, it's a roller coaster. Some days, I hold on to hope fiercely. I remind myself this is temporary, that with enough grit, things will get better. But other days, the weight feels unbearable. The fear of not making ends meet creeps into every part of my life. I've lost sleep over bills, cancelled plans with friends because I couldn't afford to join, and felt a deep, gnawing shame about my financial reality. It's isolating. Money is a taboo topic, but it's also the constant undercurrent of my existence. I lie awake at night wondering if I'll ever catch up or if I'm destined to keep treading water. I cope the best I can. I track my spending obsessively, hoping that some spreadsheet magic will reveal a secret path out of this maze. I lean on friends and family when I can, though I'm careful not to burden them. Sometimes I just cry in private, because it's too much to hold in. I've started journaling about my fears and dreams, a small act of reclaiming control. When I can, I take long walks or listen to podcasts about personal finance, not because I have the answers, but because it helps me feel like I'm not alone in this struggle. The hardest part is the dreams I've had to postpone. I wanted to travel, to see new places and break out of this routine. I dreamed of owning a home someday, creating a space that felt like mine. I even thought about going back to school to pursue a career I'd be passionate about. But these dreams feel like luxuries now, distant and impractical. Instead, I focus on surviving month to month, finding joy in small things, a good book, a phone call with a friend, a quiet moment to breathe. It's not what I imagined, but it's real. Sometimes I wonder if this is how it will always be. But deep down, I cling to hope. Hope that the system can change. Hope that wages will rise, that housing will become affordable, that someday I'll feel secure enough to dream again without fear. I remind myself that I am not alone, there are many others caught in this cycle, fighting the same battles. That connection gives me strength. This story isn't just about money. It's about survival, about trying to live a full life in a world that often feels stacked against you. It's about vulnerability and resilience, about acknowledging pain while still holding on to hope. I'm still here, still trying, still dreaming, even if those dreams look different now. And that, I think, is something worth holding on to. It's hard to put into words exactly what it feels like to be stuck in this constant loop, where no matter how hard I try, the numbers just don't add up. Every morning I wake up, and the first thing on my mind isn't my dreams or my plans, it's the mounting pressure of bills, rent, groceries, and the quiet, gnawing fear of what happens if I can't keep up. The truth is, I'm drowning in a system where expenses climb faster than my paycheck ever can. I'm 27 now. Not that old, but old enough to know that life isn't turning out the way I imagined it. Growing up, I was always the kid with big dreams, traveling the world, starting a business, maybe writing a novel or two. But those dreams feel so far away now, like they belong to someone else's life. Because my reality? It's shaped by the cold, relentless grind of financial survival. I live in a small apartment in the city. It's nothing fancy, one bedroom, cramped kitchen, barely enough space for my bed and a tiny desk where I do my freelance work. When I moved here, I thought the city was where opportunity lived. But all I've found is that it's also where costs spiral out of control. Rent alone eats up more than half of my monthly income. Utilities, transportation, food, it piles up like an avalanche I can't stop. The economic environment feels like a tide that pulls me under. Inflation hikes prices on everything from coffee to toothpaste. Groceries are a constant source of anxiety. I can't just grab whatever I want anymore. I scan labels, calculate prices in my head, sometimes choosing generic brands or skipping items just to keep the total low. It's humiliating to feel that kind of pinch over the most basic needs. But I don't have a choice. On top of that, my job security is fragile. I freelance writing and social media management, which means income is unpredictable. Some months I make enough to cover everything comfortably, but more often, I'm scrambling. There's no safety net, no paid sick days, no guaranteed hours. I've learned to juggle multiple gigs, staying up late into the night just to finish deadlines. Sleep is a luxury I can't always afford. Financial pressure seeps into every decision I make. I don't go out with friends unless it's an absolute must. Eating out is a rare treat, not a regular part of my life. Even something as simple as buying new clothes or replacing worn-out shoes feels like a reckless indulgence. I've postponed medical checkups because I can't justify the cost. It's a constant exercise in rationing, not just money, but time, energy, hope. Emotionally, it's exhausting. I feel trapped, like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up while I'm getting slower. The weight of debt and bills is a low hum at the back of my mind, a constant reminder that I'm not in control. Some days I feel a crushing hopelessness, a sense that no matter what I do, the gap between what I earn and what I owe will never close. But I try to cope. I cling to small moments of joy, reading a good book, walking in the park, texting a friend who understands. I write in my journal, pouring out all the frustration and fear. I remind myself that I'm not alone, even though it often feels that way. There's comfort in knowing so many others are fighting the same battle, even if we don't talk about it openly. I've had to postpone so many dreams. That trip to Europe I saved for, now indefinitely shelved. The idea of going back to school or starting my own business feels like a distant luxury, not a near-term possibility. I've scaled back my expectations, trying to redefine what success means when survival is victory enough. But sometimes, at night, the old dreams come back, and they ache. They remind me of the person I used to hope to be. Still, I hold on to hope in the smallest, quietest ways. Maybe someday, things will change. Maybe I'll find a job with steady income, or the economy will ease up just enough for me to breathe. I keep looking for opportunities to upskill, to grow, to build a future that isn't just about making ends meet. It's hard, but I keep moving forward, because the alternative, giving up, is not something I'm willing to accept. This financial pressure isn't just about money. It's about dignity, freedom, and the ability to dream without fear. I'm learning to navigate this complicated landscape, to find moments of light in the shadows, and to remind myself that my worth isn't measured by the digits in my bank account. For now, that's enough to keep me going. I never imagined that being in my mid-20s would feel like trying to stay afloat in a rising tide that never seems to stop climbing. Every morning, I wake up with a sinking feeling, the creeping realization that no matter how hard I work, the financial pressure is this constant shadow I can't outrun. It's like being trapped in a loop where expenses grow faster than my paycheck, and I'm stuck scrambling just to keep up. I work full-time at a mid-level job, the kind you're supposed to feel grateful for because it pays the bills. But even with steady hours, my income barely stretches to cover rent, utilities, food, and the essentials. The rent alone feels like a mountain, rising every year while my raise is a crumb compared to inflation. The grocery bills, transport, and those little unexpected costs, a broken phone screen, a doctor's visit, a friend's birthday gift, all pile up, chip away at what's left. And then there's the student loans, like a silent weight dragging me down. I pay them faithfully, but sometimes I wonder if they're a chain around my ankle rather than an investment in my future. I think back to my dreams before all this: traveling, starting a small business, saving up to buy a home someday. Those dreams feel more like distant stars now, beautiful but unreachable. I had imagined a life where I could explore, learn, and grow without the constant shadow of "can I afford this?" hovering over every choice. But instead, I spend my days calculating. Should I get that coffee? Is it better to cook at home even if it takes more time? Can I justify a night out with friends, or do I owe it to myself to save every last penny? This economic environment is relentless. The cost of living keeps climbing, and the safety nets feel threadbare or non-existent. I see people around me making choices that feel impossible for me, buying cars, moving into nicer apartments, going on vacations, and it's hard not to feel the sting of exclusion, even though I know comparing myself only makes things worse. It's like running a race where everyone else starts 5 steps ahead. Emotionally, it's exhausting. There are days when I'm overwhelmed by the constant stress, when the anxiety of money seeps into every corner of my life. Sleep is elusive, because my mind runs through bills, budgets, worst-case scenarios. I try to be careful about who I talk to, because admitting you're struggling financially often feels like admitting failure. But the truth is, this isn't about failure. It's about a system that's hard to beat, where wages stagnate, prices surge, and the gap only widens. To cope, I've learned to be fiercely practical and resourceful. I meal prep to avoid eating out, hunt for discounts, and delay anything that feels like a luxury. I'm careful with friendships, sometimes declining invitations to save money, which makes me feel isolated but necessary. I picked up small side gigs here and there, not because I want to work more hours, but because I feel like I have to. The feeling of being trapped is real, like no matter how much I stretch or scramble, the floor keeps rising. Sometimes, though, I allow myself small moments of hope. I dream about financial freedom, what that would feel like, how it might change everything. I picture a day when I'm not afraid of a flat tire or a sudden medical bill. I imagine investing in myself without guilt, learning new skills, and maybe even starting that small business I once envisioned. These dreams are a bomb, even if they're on hold for now. Being honest about this struggle feels important. It's not just about me, it's about a whole generation caught in an economic squeeze, trying to make it despite the odds. I want to believe that things can change, that the system can be kinder, that my efforts will eventually pay off. For now, I keep going, because giving up isn't an option. I hold on to the hope that one day, the tide will recede, and I'll be able to breathe freely again. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I'm 28, and I've never felt as trapped as I do right now. Every day feels like a quiet battle between my paycheck and the ever-rising cost of just existing. It's hard to explain the crushing weight of knowing that no matter how hard you work, the numbers on your bills grow faster than your income ever will. It's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up, and I can't step off. The economic environment today is harsh, and it shapes every decision I make. When I wake up in the morning, before I even get out of bed, my brain starts calculating. Did I spend too much on groceries last week? Can I afford gas for my car this month? Will my rent increase again? These questions aren't just thoughts, they're urgent, like alarms buzzing in the background all day long. It's exhausting. I remember when I first moved out on my own, fresh out of college, full of hope. I had dreams, traveling, buying a small home, maybe even starting a family one day. But now, those dreams feel like distant memories, postponed indefinitely. Instead of planning for the future, I find myself hyper-focused on surviving the present. The dream of stability, something so simple, seems impossible. My expenses rise every month. Rent is the biggest weight, consuming a huge chunk of my paycheck, and it feels like every landlord in the city is raising prices to keep up with inflation. Utilities are more expensive, groceries cost more, even the basics like bread and milk have inflated beyond what I remember. And then there are the unexpected expenses, a car repair here, a medical bill there. I try to keep an emergency fund, but it feels like it's constantly being drained. My income, on the other hand, feels stuck. Raises are few and far between, and often they don't keep pace with the rising costs. Sometimes I take on extra shifts, but that's a double-edged sword. It leaves me tired, anxious, and emotionally drained, which affects everything else in my life. The promise of a better future feels out of reach when I'm just trying to make it through today. This pressure invades my mental and emotional space. I carry an invisible burden that makes socializing difficult because every invitation to dinner or a night out triggers a calculation in my head. Can I afford this? Should I skip? That disconnect from friends feels lonely and isolating. Sometimes, I get overwhelmed by guilt for not being able to contribute or keep up with what feels like normal living. It's a silent shame that no one talks about much. Some nights, I lie awake worrying. What if I lose my job? What if an emergency wipes out what little savings I have? The fear is a constant companion, quietly eroding my confidence and hope. I wonder if this is what adulthood is supposed to feel like: endless stress, endless compromise. To cope, I've had to become fiercely pragmatic. I track every expense, clip coupons, and shop sales. I've learned to cook simple meals at home instead of eating out. I've downgraded my phone plan and cut out subscriptions. Even then, it never feels like enough. I remind myself to celebrate small wins, like paying all my bills on time or managing to put a few dollars away. But those wins feel small against the weight of what I'm facing. I've also tried to hold on to some hope. I keep dreaming about a future where I don't have to second-guess every purchase. A future where I can finally buy a home, travel somewhere far away, or just live without constant anxiety about money. Those dreams keep me going, even when the present feels bleak. But honestly, it's hard not to feel defeated sometimes. The system feels rigged against people like me, those trying to start their lives amid economic turmoil. The more expenses grow, the more the gap widens between what I make and what I need to live. And that feeling of being trapped is suffocating. I wish more people understood this struggle. It's not just about money, it's about mental health, self-worth, and the ability to hope. It's about feeling like the system is designed to keep me just barely afloat, not to help me thrive. I want to believe things can change, that my efforts won't be in vain. For now, I keep going. I breathe through the stress and remind myself that this isn't the end of my story. I hold on to my dreams quietly, even if I have to postpone them for now. I hope that someday, the weight will lift and I'll finally feel free. But until then, I'm here, trying to survive and find moments of peace in a world that feels like it's moving too fast and costing too much. I still remember the first time I really felt the weight of financial pressure, that creeping, invisible burden that settles into your chest and doesn't quite let go. It was shortly after I moved into my own apartment, fresh out of college, full of hope and plans. I thought if I worked hard, paid my rent on time, and kept my head down, I'd be okay. But that hope started to erode quickly, day by day, bill by bill. The economic environment today feels like a tidal wave that's pushing me under, no matter how fast I swim. Every month, my paycheck stretches thinner. Rent goes up, groceries cost more, utilities spike, and the little unexpected expenses, car repairs, medical bills, pile up like bricks on my back. Meanwhile, my income barely budges. Sometimes it feels like I'm running a race where the finish line keeps moving further away. Every morning, I wake up with that familiar knot of anxiety in my stomach. The first thing I do is check my bank account on my phone. That number is a punch in the gut, reminding me of what's owed, what's overdue, what I still have to pay. It's a silent judge of every decision I make. Can I afford to eat out today? Should I skip buying new shoes even though mine are falling apart? Can I fill the gas tank, or do I have to rely on friends for rides again? These small choices feel monumental when you're constantly calculating, rationing, sacrificing. Work isn't a refuge either. I have a steady job, but the pay barely keeps pace with inflation. I watch my coworkers talk casually about vacations or buying new cars, and I feel like an outsider, stuck in a loop of stress and survival. My rent alone takes nearly half of my monthly income. Utilities and other essentials keep climbing no matter how much I try to cut back. I've learned to delay everything that isn't absolutely necessary, medical checkups, replacing broken appliances, even dental care, because I simply can't afford it. Emotionally, it's a roller coaster. Some days, I cling to hope. I tell myself this is just a phase, that if I work hard enough, keep making smart choices, someday things will turn around. But there are darker days too, days when the stress feels suffocating, when I lie awake at night worrying about money, about falling behind, about what happens if something truly unexpected comes up. I feel guilty and ashamed that I can't make it work the way others seem to. The financial pressure isolates me, too. Money is a taboo topic, and I keep it bottled inside, afraid to burden friends or family. Coping takes effort. I meticulously track every cent, budget down to the penny, cut out every luxury. I find solace in small things, a walk in the park, a good book borrowed from the library, connecting with friends who understand. Sometimes I cry alone in my apartment, overwhelmed by the pressure. Other times, I force myself to smile and push through, pretending that everything is fine. I've also started journaling, pouring out my worries and hopes onto paper. It helps me feel less trapped in my own head. The hardest part? The dreams I've had to put on hold. I once imagined traveling the world, buying a home, maybe going back to school to study something I'm passionate about. Those dreams feel like distant luxuries now, replaced by urgent priorities, paying rent, staying current on bills, keeping my car running. I want to believe that someday I'll reclaim those dreams, but right now, they feel like fragile, faraway stars. Still, despite everything, I hold on to hope. Hope that the system will change, that wages will rise, that housing and essentials will become affordable. I remind myself I'm not alone, millions are facing the same fight, caught in this cycle of expenses outpacing income. That shared struggle gives me strength. This story isn't just about money. It's about survival and resilience, about navigating a world that feels stacked against you but still finding reasons to keep going. I'm here, still trying, still dreaming, even if those dreams look different now. And maybe that's enough, for today. I never thought I'd end up feeling this way, like I'm running a race I can't win, where every step forward gets swallowed by a tide that just keeps rising. I'm 26, and most days, my life feels like a balancing act on a tightrope made of unpaid bills and shrinking bank balances. The economic pressure isn't just numbers on a screen, it's the weight that presses down on my chest the moment I wake up, the gnawing anxiety that doesn't leave even when I'm supposed to be resting. It started slowly, almost unnoticeably. When I landed my first job out of college, I was proud. Finally, a paycheck, some financial independence. But that pride quickly faded when the first rent increase hit, followed by higher utility bills, grocery prices climbing faster than my salary raises. My income grew, sure, but not enough. Every month, the gap between what I earn and what I owe widens. Expenses have become this relentless beast, and I'm just trying to keep it fed with scraps. The cost of living is this invisible monster lurking behind every choice I make. Should I buy the bus ticket or save the money and walk in the rain? Do I eat out to save time, knowing it's a luxury I can't really afford? Do I finally replace my worn-out shoes or stretch the sole until it's just about holding? These aren't questions anyone should have to ask daily, but here I am, counting every penny, calculating every expense. There are nights I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding. It's the worry that never fades, the dread that I might lose my job, or that a car breakdown or a medical bill could wipe out what little savings I've managed to squirrel away. It's the feeling that I'm trapped, like no matter how hard I hustle, I'm stuck in this system designed to keep me just barely afloat. The system. That word carries so much weight. It's not just a financial system, it's a societal loop that feels rigged. I see people around me moving forward, buying homes, traveling, saving for retirement, and I wonder if I'm doing something wrong or if the rules just don't favor someone like me. Sometimes I catch myself imagining a world where I can breathe, where money doesn't dictate my worth or my happiness. Everyday life has turned into a series of compromises. I cut corners on food, buy second-hand clothes, and put off doctor visits because health insurance feels like a luxury. I've stopped going out with friends because the cost of socializing is too high. Birthdays, holidays, celebrations, they all come with a price tag I can't always afford. The isolation that follows stings worse than the financial strain sometimes. I cope by dreaming, maybe that sounds silly. I let myself imagine a future where I'm free from this cycle. I picture a small apartment of my own, a place I don't have to share with roommates, where I can cook without worrying about splitting bills. I dream about paying off debt, taking a trip just because I want to see the world, not because I'm forced to choose between rent and a bus ticket. These dreams are fragile, tucked away in quiet moments before reality crashes back in. And yet, hope isn't completely gone. It's just buried beneath the stress and the exhaustion. I remind myself that this pressure doesn't define me. I am more than my bank balance. I am a person with talents, with passions, with a desire to build a life that feels worth living. I hold on to the belief that if I keep pushing, keep finding small ways to stretch and save, maybe one day this tightrope will widen enough for me to walk without fear. The hardest part is the feeling of invisibility. People don't always see the struggle behind the smile, the endless mental math just to make ends meet. I want to shout that I'm doing my best, that this isn't a choice but a reality forced on so many of us. I want to be heard, understood, and not judged for the things I can't control. So here I am, sharing this story not because I have it all figured out, but because I know I'm not alone. There are so many young people out here, caught in the same cycle, trying to hold on to their dignity and their dreams. It's okay to admit how hard it is. It's okay to feel vulnerable. And maybe, if we keep speaking up, things will start to change, not just for me, but for all of us who are tired of running in place. It's hard to put into words exactly what living under this kind of financial pressure feels like until you're in it, until every choice, every breath, every quiet moment, is shadowed by that gnawing sense of not quite keeping up. I'm 27 now, working full-time, and still it feels like the bills are a tide rising faster than I can swim. The rent, the utilities, groceries, transportation, all climbing relentlessly, while my paycheck is barely inching forward. It's like being on a treadmill that speeds up without warning, and I'm stuck running just to stay in place. Some mornings, I wake up before my alarm, heart pounding, mind racing through the day's math before I even open my eyes. What do I have? How much do I owe? Is there anything extra I can cut? It's a ritual I hate but can't escape. Last month, I had to decide between fixing the leaky faucet or paying for my car's overdue insurance. I chose the car. The faucet can drip a little longer. I don't want to think about what that means for the long run, but the immediate reality presses down harder. Water bills are high enough as it is. Living paycheck to paycheck isn't just a cliché for me. It's a daily grind that stretches my patience and my hope. I used to think if I just worked hard, saved a little, things would improve. But the more I try, the more it feels like the system is stacked against me. The economy shifts, prices spike, and somehow, my income is always a step behind. I'm constantly juggling expenses, waiting on freelance payments that sometimes arrive late or don't come through at all. I keep reminding myself, this is temporary. But temporary has stretched into years. The social cost is invisible but heavy. Friends invite me out, but I'm hesitant to say yes because I know I can't afford it. Not the bar, not the new clothes, not even the occasional weekend trip that everyone else seems to take for granted. There's a loneliness in that exclusion. I watch Instagram stories of people living carefree lives, traveling, dining out, while I'm here clipping coupons and rationing my coffee. It's hard not to feel like I'm failing somewhere, or that I'm missing out on the fullness of life. Some days, the pressure crushes my spirit. I lie awake at night, wrestling with anxiety that feels bigger than me. Will I ever catch up? Will I ever get a break? I want to scream into the void, but there's no one to hear except the silent walls of my small apartment. Therapy helps when I can afford it, but most of the time, I'm just trying to get through the next 24 hours without breaking down. Coping takes creativity. I've learned to cook from scratch, stretching ingredients into multiple meals, because eating out is a luxury I gave up long ago. I've stopped buying new clothes, second-hand stores and hand-me-downs are my wardrobe now. I set alarms to remind me when bills are due to avoid late fees. I've developed a kind of armor, quiet determination mixed with a touch of stubborn pride, that keeps me moving forward, even when I want to give up. And yet, beneath all the struggle, I hold on to my dreams. I used to want to travel the world, to study art, to live somewhere bright and open. I had plans to save for a down payment on a house someday, to build a life with some sense of security and freedom. Now, those dreams feel like distant stars, visible but impossibly far away. I've had to postpone, cancel, or rethink nearly everything. Instead of dreaming big, I dream smaller. Maybe one day I can afford a night out, maybe one day I can replace my worn-out laptop without worry, maybe one day I can breathe without this constant pressure. It's a slow erosion of hope, but not a total loss. Every month I manage to save a little, even if it's just $20, it feels like a small victory. Every time I resist the impulse to buy something unnecessary, I'm telling myself I matter, that my future matters. Some days, I remind myself that this is not who I am, it's just the situation I'm in. I am more than my bank account, more than the debt that shadows me. But it's hard to feel that way when the world around you seems to measure your worth by your wallet. When a single unexpected expense, a car repair, a medical bill, a broken appliance, can throw everything into chaos. The feeling of being trapped in a system that never slows down, never makes room for breathing, is suffocating. It's a weight that presses on your chest and clouds your mind. Still, I get up each day and try again. Because what else is there to do? I remind myself that resilience is not about never falling, but about getting back up each time. And maybe one day, the economy will shift, or I'll find a way out. Maybe one day, the dreams I've shelved will dust themselves off and come back to life. Until then, I hold on to the fragile hope that these struggles will not define me, that somewhere beyond this relentless pressure, there's a life waiting to be lived fully and freely. I never thought I'd find myself here, sitting on the edge of exhaustion, feeling like I'm drowning in a sea of bills, deadlines, and endless what-ifs. At 27, I imagined life would look different. More hopeful. Maybe even a little exciting. Instead, it feels like I'm caught in a tightening noose, where every day is a reminder that the cost of living climbs higher, but my paycheck barely budges. The weight of it presses down so heavily that sometimes it's hard to breathe. The economic landscape I'm navigating is harsh and unforgiving. Inflation is this invisible monster, slowly creeping into every corner of my life. Groceries, rent, utilities, everything feels like it's stretching my budget thinner and thinner. I watch the numbers on my bank account with a mix of dread and disbelief. Expenses climb month after month, and no matter what I do, my income just can't keep pace. It's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up, but I'm stuck in place. Every decision I make has a financial lens. Should I cook at home tonight, even if I'm exhausted? Or order takeout, which I know will cost too much but saves time? Do I fill up my gas tank, or hold off and risk missing work? Can I afford to see a friend for coffee, or do I have to say no again? The constant budgeting feels like a game I didn't sign up for, but one I'm forced to play every day. I live in the tension between making ends meet and the gnawing fear of falling behind. I'm trapped in this system that seems designed to keep me scrambling. My rent alone eats up more than half my monthly income, and it's gone up twice in the past year. Utilities fluctuate wildly with the seasons, and groceries have become a battleground, comparing prices, clipping coupons, skipping the things I used to enjoy. I've stopped buying new clothes unless absolutely necessary and cut back on every non-essential thing I once took for granted: streaming services, gym memberships, nights out. Even small luxuries feel like a betrayal now. The emotional toll is immense. Some days, I wake up with a pit in my stomach, anxious about how I'm going to pay this month's bills. Other days, it turns to a dull ache of hopelessness. It's isolating too. I can't talk about money without feeling shame or guilt. Friends who don't struggle financially often ask why I don't just work more hours or find a better job. But it's not that simple. The job market is tough, and even with a degree and experience, the opportunities that pay enough and offer stability are scarce. I cope the best I can. I've learned to live with less, to find joy in the simple and free, walks in the park, cooking from scratch, calling old friends instead of meeting in person. I practice gratitude for the small wins, paying off a credit card, finding a discount on an essential item, a day without any unexpected expenses. But there's an undercurrent of exhaustion that never quite goes away. The future feels uncertain, a heavy question mark hanging over me. Dreams I once had feel postponed indefinitely. I thought I'd be saving for a home by now, maybe planning trips to places I've always wanted to see. But instead, I'm just trying to keep my head above water, hoping to build a small emergency fund to weather the next crisis. It hurts to admit that the life I envisioned seems so far away. Sometimes I wonder if it will ever be within reach. Yet, despite it all, I hold on to hope. I remind myself that this struggle doesn't define me, even if it shapes my days. I dream of stability, of breathing freely without counting every penny. I dream of a time when my work feels rewarding, not just a means to survive. I dream of breaking free from this system that's designed to hold me down, to finally build the life I've always wanted. For now, I live in the tension of what is and what could be, fighting the fatigue and holding on to the possibility of something better. It's hard, it's painful, but it's real, and it's mine. I never thought I'd feel this way at 26. But here I am, in what feels like a constant state of stress, my mind running in endless circles about money. The kind of money stress that doesn't just sit on the surface but creeps under your skin and weighs on your every decision. I graduated college with a lot of hope. I had a degree, a job lined up, and dreams, big ones. I imagined having the freedom to travel, maybe move to a city I loved, start saving for my own place. But reality quickly slapped me with a harsh truth: the cost of living keeps rising faster than my paycheck. Every month, the numbers don't add up the way they should. Rent jumps, groceries get pricier, gas costs more, and utilities don't wait for me to catch up. Meanwhile, my income stays stubbornly stagnant. It's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up while my legs get heavier. Each morning starts with a small, unavoidable ritual: opening my banking app and staring at the balance. That number is a constant reminder of how tight things are. I calculate bills due, subtract what I owe on my credit card, and try to figure out if there's any wiggle room left for food or transportation. The truth is, there rarely is. I find myself making decisions that feel small to others but massive to me. Should I take the bus instead of an Uber? Skip lunch with friends to save money? Hold off on seeing the doctor for a lingering cold because I can't afford the copay? The weight of these choices is exhausting. It feels like being trapped in a cage, where the bars are the rising costs that keep closing in. I work a full-time job, sometimes pick up extra shifts, and still it's barely enough. The bills come like clockwork, and so does the anxiety. There's this gnawing fear that one unexpected expense, like a car repair or medical emergency, will throw everything off balance. And that fear is real, it lives in the back of my mind every day. Financial stress affects more than just my wallet. It seeps into my emotional well-being, making me feel anxious and drained. Some nights I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the next paycheck and whether it'll stretch far enough. I try to hide it from my family and friends because I don't want to be a burden or feel judged, but it's lonely. Money talk is taboo in my circle, so I carry this pressure silently. It's exhausting to pretend like I have it all together when inside I feel like I'm barely holding on. To cope, I've become obsessed with budgeting. Every cent is tracked, every expense scrutinized. I meal prep to avoid eating out, shop only for essentials, and hunt for discounts like it's a second job. Sometimes, I find tiny moments of relief in these routines, like a small victory that I didn't spend on something unnecessary. But mostly, it's a constant balancing act with no finish line. The dreams I had when I was younger, the trips, the new car, the homeownership, have been shelved indefinitely. I think about going back to school, maybe pursuing a passion project, but those feel like luxuries out of reach right now. I tell myself that someday, when the economic climate improves or my income catches up, I'll revisit those dreams. But there's a quiet grief in realizing I've had to pause parts of myself just to survive. Despite all this, I try to hold on to hope. I remind myself that I'm not alone in this struggle, that many others are navigating the same system where expenses grow and incomes don't. That shared experience, even if invisible, gives me a small measure of strength. I keep moving forward, even if it's one cautious step at a time, believing that someday the scale might tip in my favor. This isn't just a story about money, it's about resilience and the fight to keep dreams alive when the world seems designed to make them impossible. I'm still here, still dreaming quietly, still trying to believe that better days will come. I never imagined adulthood would feel like this, like I'm sinking slowly but steadily, trapped in a current I can't swim out of. Each month, the numbers don't add up. My paycheck feels smaller and smaller, even though the digits haven't changed much. It's just that everything else around me keeps climbing, the rent, groceries, utilities, transportation. Like I'm running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up while my legs get heavier. I'm 27 now. I have a decent job, or at least it feels decent compared to some of my friends who are still scrambling for steady work. I'm lucky to have it, and I'm grateful every day, but grateful doesn't pay the bills. Not anymore. When I first started, I was hopeful. I thought if I worked hard, saved a little, maybe even invested carefully, I could build a stable future. But stable seems like a word from a different life, from a different era. Now, I'm just trying to keep my head above water. Every morning starts the same: wake up early, check the budget for the week, calculate how many meals I can stretch out before payday. I keep a notebook where I jot down every expense, no matter how small. A coffee here, a bus fare there, a pack of gum at the checkout. It all adds up, and it all chips away at what little I have left. Bills come first. Rent, utilities, phone, internet, they're non-negotiable. Sometimes I wish I could pause those bills, put them on hold like a subscription I don't want anymore. But they don't care about my hopes or my struggles. They want to be paid. And if I miss one? Penalties. Late fees. The slow crushing weight of debt. Food is next. I've gotten pretty good at meal prepping, cooking bulk meals on weekends, eating cheap but healthy-ish. I've stopped buying fresh fruit regularly because it's just too expensive. Frozen vegetables are my fallback now. I miss the little things: grabbing lunch with friends, trying new restaurants, a nice drink on a Friday night. Those are luxuries I can't afford anymore. Sometimes, when the pressure feels unbearable, I think about all the things I wanted when I was younger. Traveling to new countries, owning my own apartment, maybe starting a family someday. Dreams that now seem so far away, almost foolish. It hurts to admit that I've had to shelve them indefinitely. I tell myself it's temporary, that things will get better. But the longer I live like this, the more distant those dreams feel. Emotionally, it's exhausting. There's a constant background noise of anxiety, that gnawing worry about what if something unexpected happens: a medical bill, a car repair, a job loss. There's no safety net. Just the fragile thread of this paycheck, barely enough to cover essentials. I often feel isolated too. It's hard to talk about money struggles when everyone else seems to be doing okay or pretending to. I'm afraid they'll judge me or see me as a failure. I cope by focusing on small wins. Making it through the week without overdrafting my bank account. Finding a good deal at the store. Sometimes, I treat myself to a cheap but comforting pleasure: a movie at home, a favorite snack, a walk in the park. I try to remind myself that I'm not alone. There are so many people stuck in this same cycle, fighting invisible battles. I've learned to be resourceful: budget apps, second-hand shopping, taking advantage of community resources. I've even started a side hustle that barely makes a dent but gives me a little extra cushion. It's tiring, but I hold on to the hope that these small efforts will eventually add up. Looking ahead, I want to believe in a future where I'm not just surviving but thriving. Where I can look back and say I made it through. Maybe one day I'll have a stable home, a job that pays enough to cover more than just the basics, and the freedom to dream again without guilt. For now, I'm just doing what I can, day by day. Being trapped in this system where expenses outpace income is suffocating. It's a slow, grinding pressure that wears down your spirit as much as your wallet. But I'm still here, still trying. And maybe that's enough for today. This is my story, my truth, the quiet reality behind the smile I put on every morning. Some mornings, I wake up before my alarm, heart already racing, not because I'm excited or motivated, but because the weight of the day presses down on me before I even open my eyes. I stare at the ceiling, counting all the things I need to worry about. Rent is due in 2 weeks. My car needs a new tire, but I'm not sure I can afford it. Groceries are getting more expensive every time I go to the store, and I've stopped buying anything that isn't absolutely essential. My paycheck feels smaller every month, even though I'm working the same hours. It's like there's an invisible force pulling money out of my hands faster than I can earn it, and no matter how tightly I clutch my wallet, it slips through my fingers. I'm 26, working a decent job in retail, hours are steady but the pay is barely above minimum wage. I'm grateful to have it, especially when so many of my friends are struggling to find work at all. But gratitude doesn't pay the bills. Some days I wonder if this is all there is to adulthood, a never-ending cycle of anxiety over money, a constant balancing act between make it last and what if something breaks. The economic landscape right now feels like an unrelenting storm. Inflation is a term I barely understood a few years ago, but now it's etched into every decision I make. I compare prices obsessively, scan every receipt twice, and have a spreadsheet to track every cent, just to keep the bleeding manageable. But it's a losing battle. Rent has gone up twice since I moved into this tiny apartment, utilities spike unpredictably, and that extra cost for groceries is a daily reminder that my income doesn't stretch as far as it used to. It's exhausting. I feel trapped, like I'm running on a treadmill that speeds up whenever I try to slow down. Expenses grow faster than my income, and even working overtime doesn't close the gap. I sometimes wonder if I'm alone in this or if everyone feels this way under the surface, hiding behind smiles and social media posts about weekend getaways and new gadgets. I scroll through those posts and the sense of isolation deepens. Everyone else seems to be moving forward, upgrading their lives, while I'm stuck, treading water. The impact on my emotional well-being is profound. There are nights I lie awake, heart pounding, mind racing through what ifs. What if I lose this job? What if the car breaks down? What if I can't pay rent next month? Anxiety coils tight in my chest, and it's hard to breathe. I try to push it down with distractions, music, TV, scrolling through my phone, but it always creeps back, louder and more insistent. I've learned to cope the only way I know how, by tightening my belt, cutting out luxuries, and lowering expectations. I haven't eaten out in months. I skip the movies, the concerts, the little things that used to make life feel bright and bearable. Birthdays and holidays have become exercises in creativity, handmade gifts, potluck dinners, anything but spending money we don't have. Social invitations often come with a price tag, and I've learned to say no more than yes, even when I want to say yes badly. My mental health isn't great. I've started seeing a counselor through a low-cost community program, and that helps a bit. Talking about the stress, the fear, the sense of hopelessness is a relief. But the root of the problem, money, is still there, gnawing away. Sometimes I cry in the shower because it feels like there's no escape, no break, no light at the end of the tunnel. I have dreams. I used to dream of traveling, moving to a city with more opportunities, maybe going back to school for something I really care about. I imagined buying a home one day, or at least saving enough to feel safe. But those dreams feel like luxuries now, things I've had to put on hold indefinitely. The word someday echoes through my mind, someday I'll have savings. Someday I won't have to check prices twice. Someday I'll breathe easy. It's hard not to feel bitter sometimes. Bitter that the system feels rigged against people like me, working hard, playing by the rules, but never quite catching up. The news talks about economic recovery, but I don't see it in my paycheck. I see ads for expensive cars and high-end phones, and I wonder how anyone can afford those things. It's demoralizing. The gap between what I earn and what I need widens every day, and I don't see how it gets smaller. Yet, in the middle of this struggle, I hold on to small sparks of hope. I remind myself that this isn't permanent, even though it feels like it. I look for ways to improve, learning new skills online, applying for scholarships, networking quietly. I try to celebrate small victories, a month without missed rent, a meal made from scratch that cost less than $5, a good day at work where I didn't feel crushed by the weight of it all. Sometimes, in the quiet moments before sleep, I imagine what freedom would feel like. Not just the freedom of money, but the freedom to make choices without fear. To say yes to a trip, to a new hobby, to a chance at something better. To wake up and feel excited, not anxious. That vision fuels me, even if it feels distant. For now, I keep going. One paycheck at a time. One day at a time. Because giving up isn't an option, even if the path forward is shrouded in uncertainty. I'm trapped, yes, but I'm still fighting, still hoping, still dreaming. And maybe that's enough for now. This story isn't just mine, it's the story of countless others trying to carve out a life in a world where financial pressures mount relentlessly. And if anything, sharing it makes me feel a little less alone. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.